Does your mate feel loved? In 1991, I was a pastor in a church, and a man named Gary Chapman wrote a book. Brand new, bookstore sent it to pastors so that pastors could read it and tell their congregation about it if they wanted to. And I liked it so much that we happened to have a divorce recovery group that was meeting in our church, probably 20 or 30 people who were recovering from divorce. And so we bought that whole group this book. And then I went back and checked with them about a month later after they'd read it, and I have never heard such an overwhelming response from a book. And it was kind of sad because the response was, I wish I would have had this book when I was still married, because it would have probably prevented my marriage from going bad. And so from that point on, I decided that I would always make sure that couples that I marry either read this book or take a survey that I'm actually going to give you a little later on, that helps them to understand the principles of this, because it's just that important. By the way, I've married some of you that are in this group here, and you've already read this book. Others of you are familiar with it. That's okay, because it's always a good thing to recheck this idea of the love languages. So here's what Dr. Gary Chapman found out through years of counseling couples. He would often hear the husband or the wife complain that their mate doesn't love them. He would hear this a lot. But one thing that he noticed was that in the majority of cases, the other mate would sincerely list several proofs of their love. They would very sincerely be shocked to hear that their mate says that they didn't feel loved. And so they would say, well, I do love them. I mean, it's obvious because I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. It's obvious that I love them. And again, he could tell. In fact, he even knew some of the people personally, and he knew that these people loved each other, but they're before him saying, I don't feel loved. And so he went back and he looked at several years worth of notes that he had taken on these different couples when they said this. And he realized that each of us has a certain way that makes us feel loved. Every single one of us has a way that makes us emotionally feel like we're being loved. And the other person might be speaking or doing loving things in their mind toward us, but it might not connect if they're not talking our language. Let me share with you just what he determined are the 5 languages of love. And by the way, you may not be in a marriage relationship. This works for friends. Works for parents and children. Okay? It works for any relationship. The 5 languages of love, in other words, how different people feel love, Some people, it's words of affirmation. For some people, it's receiving gifts. For some people, it's acts of service. For others, it's quality time. And for others, it's physical touch. Let me go through these quickly again. Words of affirmation. I mean, we all like words of affirmation, but for some people, when their mate or their friend or whatever compliments them and say, you look nice, or you really did a good job on this particular thing, if they have that love language, that is more than just nice to them. Everybody likes it. Everybody feels nice about that. But for them, it is great feelings of love. This person loves me when they hear words of affirmation. Okay, another language is receiving gifts. I got this gift for you. I took time. I especially thought of you when I bought it, and I took the effort to go and pick it up. I mean, you don't say all that, but that's what's involved in this. And I just had a moment of time when it was just about you, and I just thought about you, went and got it, and here it is. For some people, this gift of love, of receiving gifts, for some people it's like, yeah, thanks. I like, who doesn't like a gift? But for other people, it's, I feel so loved that my mate or my friend took time out and just thought of me. Now again, not everybody's like that, but some people are. Some people receiving a gift says, you really are loved by this person, or I love you. Okay, here's another one. Acts of service. I want to do this for you. It's not my favorite thing to do. Probably would not ever do it, but I want to do it for you. I want to take the time because I know this is not your favorite thing to do either. And so I want to serve you. And this could involve all sorts of different ways just to serve your mate. Once again, I repeat on each of these. We all like it when people do things for us, but there are certain people who feel a certain connection when somebody does something for them. It takes time to serve them, to do the dishes or whatever it might be. It says to them, you love me. Here's another one. Quality time. I want to spend time with you. I want to spend time with you. Quality time isn't usually with something else going on that you're both like. Quality time isn't watching the movie together at the theater. Although that's nice. That's great. But quality time might be that coffee afterwards that you're talking about the movie, or even the way to the movie that you're talking about it, where it's not kind of a shared experience. It's just you and your mate. Now again, everybody likes some quality time with their mate, but there are people that if you take the time when you can be doing many other things and you choose to specifically spend time with your mate. There are people that just goes right to their heart as quick as anything, and they feel loved. Or another one is physical touch. I want to be close to you. Hand on the shoulder, a hug, a kiss, or holding hands. I want to be close to you. I love you. Okay, 5 languages of love. You look nice. You look nice tonight. I have found, as I've given this survey to many couples, that a lot of people will have kind of a combination of these ways that they feel loved. And I would say that although the author says eventually you'll probably just realize it's mainly one, but I think it's possible to have more than one, but I still think it's important to know and to communicate that with your mate. And if you have a mate that has a combination of ways that they feel loved, then that just gives you more opportunity to intentionally love them. And these are things that we all ought to try to do. If your mate doesn't really say, that it doesn't really matter to them, if you have words of affirmation, it's still nice. I mean, we still ought to be thoughtful. So if your mate comes out real strong on one area, we're not saying here that you don't pay attention to the others. It's still just nice. You should do that. But again, if that's the only thing that you do, your mate's not going to feel loved. I got this just for you. Want to do this for you, acts of service. I want to spend time with you. I want to be close to you. Denise and I, neither one are score or rank high in this area of physical touch. We're not big huggers. But when I say, so for me to just right now, just to go and give her a big hug, I mean, yeah, like if a baby's born, or if the Reds win the World Series, or yeah, I mean, but because neither one of us have this as our number one thing, it almost seems a little awkward if after this message I just go give her a big hug. But when I say that we should not ignore these areas, here's what I mean. For me, it feels really natural and really good. Just I'll walk by her and I just put my hand kind of on her shoulder. She might be sitting watching TV, and I just put my hand on her shoulder and move on and go on. And for me, I'm saying I love you, even though I'm not an all-out hugger. And she isn't either. But so I say all of that to still find a way because all of these areas are important. So find a way to do these, but know that there is one primary way that you must make sure that you do. Otherwise, your mate is going to say they don't feel loved, and that is your marriage is going to be in trouble. Okay, so everyone has at least one. Your mate very well might have a different language. Here's where we get into trouble, is that we assume that our mate has our language. We just assume that because no one ever talks about this. We're not taught about this kind of stuff. So we just assume, if you happen to be a physical touch person, you assume that your mate, that's how they also respond to being loved. And so you go around hugging them all the time, and they're okay to an extent, but after a while they say, man, nobody has won the World Series. And couldn't you just help me with whatever it might be, washing the car, or because they have acts of service? We assume our mate responds to our love language. Just to mention that. So we make this assumption. And then, probably unknowingly, we tend to diminish the importance of our mate's language. One, because we have never been taught this before. But secondly, we just have a way, we're so me-centered. And we have this idea that our way is kind of the only way. And so if you have a mate that is gift-oriented, and you're not gift-oriented, you are acts of service-oriented, then you might even by assumption think that it's kind of immature on your mate's part that he or she has to get gifts to feel loved. When in reality, it has nothing to do with who's mature or not. It's the way we are. It's the way we are as human beings, the way we are made and created. It's our personality. And I've already said this, but if you speak the wrong language, your mate will not feel loved. And this is the sad part. I mean, you might as well only be speaking French, and all they know is Italian. And you might love them with all of your heart. And you might be the nicest person, man or woman, in the world. And other people would say, oh, I wish I could be married to this person. But yet your mate is starving to feel loved. It's not that they're wrong. It's how we are made. Your mate's language is not a burden. It's an opportunity. Here's where I want to encourage you now to look at an opportunity. Once you know what your mate's love language is or their highest ones, don't see it as just one more thing I got to do. See it as a chance to make the most special human being in your life feel good about themselves and about the relationship, to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel loved. You want to. You have a chance, if you know their love language, it's not a burden. I don't want you to look at it as a burden. I mentioned washing the car or I don't know, some other kind of love, some other kind of deal. You may hate that. That may not be anything you like to do at all, but don't look at it that way. Instead, look at it as every moment that you spend. In fact, it's kind of is more special if you hate it. As long as you don't act like you're hating it when you do it and let them know, man, just want you to know, this is like the worst hour of my life, but I love you. You know what I mean. And then on the other end, when somebody does something and you know that they know what your love language is, that's special. If you know that they know your love language is physical touch or a compliment, nice words, and they know you know that, and then it seems like you go out of your way to say a couple times a day, I really appreciate you. You look lovely. You're beautiful. Then be overwhelmed when you get that. Because this person, especially if it's not their love language, they have done something specifically to say they love you that's not even in their comfort zone. But that's very special. See it as just a priceless gift that another human being would do that for you. And make sure not to get sarcastic. Please don't say, see, you've been reading the book. You listened to the sermon last week. No. Just say, oh man, I love you too. Gary Chapman says, love always is looking out for the other person's interests. Love is the attitude that says, I want to enrich your life. So, all right, the question today isn't, do you love your mate? That's not the question. What is the question? The question is, does your mate feel loved? The Bible challenges us in Romans 12:10. It says, love each other with a genuine affection. Genuine. And genuine is what we're talking about. Whereas you do not assume that your mate emotionally receives love like you do. You don't make that assumption. Because love is too complex. And so you might say you're loving by saying kind words, but that's not how they feel loved. So therefore, your love isn't genuine to them. Take delight in doing things that are in their love language. So you might say, where do you start? Hopefully your mate is here, or if it's a best friend or someone, maybe they're here today and you can talk to them, or if they're not here, tell them to listen to the replay of this message maybe, or just explain the concept. Concept isn't hard. Explain the concept to them and then ask them, how full is your love tank today? And if they are anything less than full, ask them what you can do to fill it. There's no need to feel embarrassed or bad. The good thing is you're asking the question. And you can be the best husband or wife that you know that you're being, and still you're not, you're just kind of buzzing through life, and you're doing things the right way you think. And we do this by nature, where we love just by how we feel loved. So it's not that you're a bad person, it's just that you just need to be reminded, okay, your husband or your wife has a different love language. And if they have the same love language, it'll be all that much easier for you.